question to all of you is, what made you say yes? Did you sign the back of a card? Or did somebody ask you to join their team? When I got involved in a church, when I started serving at a church, it was our church in Colorado. And when I got involved there, I wasn't a Christian. And we had been attending our church there for a really long time, probably a year before I did anything. And finally I decided it's time to check the box. And I decided I'm going to get involved in hospitality. And that was the first place that I ever saw Jesus working through people, was on that hospitality team. We served refreshments every Sunday, just like we do here at CCV. We hosted and planned every single big event that happened at that church. And we also made things for the congregation. And I don't know how many of you know me here, but I don't make things. I don't make anything. But what we did on that team was we created an environment at that church that was focused on people. It's where I learned how to serve God, and I learned how to serve people. When I first started coming to CCV, I wanted this to be a place where people could come and meet Jesus. That's all I ever thought about when I was here on Sunday morning or at the theater on Sunday morning. And whether that was, a hello, or that was a hug, or a cup of coffee, or holding somebody's crying baby in the hall, or even changing the toilet paper, like we have to do sometimes here. This CCV needed to be a place where people could come and meet Jesus. He said to his disciples in Mark 9:35, anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all. And when we serve, are we serving with that same attitude? Bill Hybels tells of a professor who spoke to him and some other students about serving. You really want to live? Dr. B asked the students, then drape a serving towel over your arm. Dr. B hit this thing not once, not 10 times, but nearly every message he presented in those early years of our youth ministry. He frequently taught the familiar story from John 13 about the day Jesus and the disciples had dinner and the foot washer didn't show up. In that time and place, where people often walked in sandals down dusty roads and then reclined at low tables with their feet not far from the faces of the guests, custom required that a servant at the door would wash dirty feet. Not so at this dinner. Something went wrong. The foot washer didn't show up. Okay, imagine, all of you, that you're standing behind a pane of glass and you're watching this scene. The first disciple enters the upper room and discovers there is no foot washer. Suddenly, for him, it's decision time. Does he wash his own feet? Does he take off his garment and become like a rank-and-file servant and wash everyone else's feet? Look into his eyes. He's thinking, not me. That's not my job. I'm not a slave. I'm no foot washer. He tries to size up where Jesus will sit and chooses an advantageous position at the table. The second disciple enters, realizes there's no foot washer, and sees his friend already seated at the table. Well, he thinks, if he's not going to stoop so low to the level of the foot washer, neither am I. And he heads toward the second best seat in the house. All the disciples do the same thing. They file in, walk past the water basin, choose the best remaining seat at the table, recline, and stick their dirty feet in each other's laps. Later, Jesus enters. Watch him. He looks at the water. He looks at the filthy feet of the disciples. You can see it in his eyes. 3 years, sermon after sermon, illustration after illustration, confrontation after confrontation. Can you see it? It looks a lot like a failure. He walks to the table and reclines. He just sits there, silently. Maybe someone will at least have the humility to wash the feet of their master. But no, nobody moves. Now watch him. He gets up from the table, walks to the water basin, and starts to take off his outer garment. Carefully, he picks up the towel and slips it through his belt, exactly the way a common servant would. Then he pours the water into the basin. Now look at the eyes of the disciples. Disbelief, embarrassment. Then as Jesus begins to wash the feet of the first disciple, you see something deeper in their eyes. Agony, regret, maybe tears. What's the matter with me? How did I miss this? My whole world revolves around me. It's bad enough I wasn't humble enough to wash the brother's feet, but I wouldn't even wash my Savior's feet. How could I have done this? What's the matter with me? Jesus circles the table. Peter resists for a moment, but Jesus knows well how to silence Peter. When he finishes his task, Jesus folds the towel and puts it back. He slips on his robe, walks back to the table, and reclines. John 13, 12 through 17 gives us his next words. Jesus says, "Do you understand what I have done for you?" He asks them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." So let me ask, have you taken Jesus' words to heart? Is serving God and serving others at the core of everything you do? Or are you serving because there's a box that needs to be checked on a card? We all serve. But the challenge, I think, for us serving God and serving people is to go the extra mile and do the extra stuff. Like tearing down chairs after the end of third service when the Eagles are coming on in 30 minutes. Or helping out in a kid's classroom when you don't have kids, or maybe you do have kids, or maybe they're grown. Taking a Saturday and helping at a local food pantry or soup kitchen. Hanging out with some middle school or high school students on a Sunday night when you're dog tired. Picking up trash that's falling out of trash cans on Sundays. Or staying in between services to meet some new people when you really want to go home. I think you get the picture. So look around. I'd say keep your towel handy and examine your heart on a regular basis. Are you changing? And how are the people around you reacting to what you do and what you offer? Jesus says in John 10:10 that I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Jesus taught us through his life and his words exactly how we should show the world what it looks like to follow him. And I just challenge all of you to follow Jesus' example of servanthood. And don't hold back. Just do it with reckless abandon, because I guarantee you that you'll be changed. And